Hi, this is Kate from Generate Magic. So I recently had an experience that caused me to relate to what some would call the messy middle or the bridge of incidents in an entirely new way. And I'm very excited to share it with you. And so the middle is just the time between when you conceive the desire and then the desire appears in your physical manifested reality. And I've talked about this before, that we shouldn't just view the middle as something to be tolerated or something to be ignored, but rather as something to be embraced and cherished and savored, right? And just savoring every step of the way. Because I know you hear about the present moment all the time, right? But really the present is all we have. So why not enjoy every second of it? And why not see everything as part of the unfolding? And savor everything as part of that beautiful story, that beautiful narrative that's unfolding. And so I've talked about this, but this experience caused, I like to say we're always expanding, right? And so even if there's kind of similar themes that are playing out, it's kind of like these variations on a theme. So it's different like nuances or different iterations on the theme that just kind of open us up to yet new ways of seeing. And there's something very like kaleidoscopic about it that's just very like beautiful and very exhilarating when you experience it. And so I had this experience where I wrote and I submitted an excerpt from a novel that I'm currently working on for a short story workshop that I was participating in. And of course, everybody that's participated in any sort of writing workshop, you always want the instructor, or most of us anyway, right? We want the instructor just to tell us how amazing it is, how it's the best story they've ever read, or the best piece of writing they've ever read, and we don't need to do anything to fix it. It's just perfect as it is. And so that's what I was wanting to hear anyway, but that wasn't the case. And so she was like, yeah, she saw the potential in it, but there was definitely a lot of work to be done. And this is how I kind of usually feel because I participated in a lot of writing workshops and had worked with editors over the years. And so anytime you find a manuscript and it's just filled with all these like comments and suggestions, it could be kind of overwhelming at first and kind of like, oh man, I have a long road ahead of me and I really have to get up my energy for this. But let me tell you, as soon as I got in and as soon as I really started kind of taking her suggestions and really kind of applying them at a deep level, it just really changed how I related to the story. And I was like, man, she's right. I was kind of going, lately I've been kind of going for this more sort of like minimalist writing style. But I recognized, or she recognized, that I was leaving out a lot of opportunities to really kind of go in depth with the characters. And so when I was writing it, the first time I was just trying to go super fast, keep it moving, keep the tension going. But I actually kind of missed out on a lot of opportunities for this deeper character development. And that's really what keeps the readers engaged, right? It's like this connection to the characters. And so it's not just about having a page turner. There's more to it than that. And so you really want compelling characters that the readers connect with. And so a lot of it has to do just with small details, like what the character's thinking, like interactions and the dialogue in each moment. And I have to be honest too, dialogue, that's probably one of the things that I kind of struggle with the most. And so I try to keep it just really short and simple. But, and she was like, but yeah, she definitely picked up on some areas where there needed to be a lot more as far as the dialogue. And as soon as I got into it, I just related to the story like in a whole new way. Like I felt more connected to the characters. And I actually felt much more excited about the story. Like I felt excited about writing it. I really kind of felt myself really kind of getting into it, getting immersed in the world of the story. And I was like, man, like this is amazing. Now that I'm applying these, all these suggestions to it, I'm like, man, readers are going to love the story. And so to me, that kind of relates to when we plant the seed, right? And then we just want it to come immediately. And we want to skip over the middle, right? We want to skip over what for me. So for me, the revision process is kind of like the messy middle. And definitely if you're a writer, it's very messy when you're going through all the various revision processes. And so yeah, so you want it to just be very short and very simple. And even when I'm kind of like editing on my own, even though I consider myself to be a pretty good editor, like you still kind of have your blind spots. And so what was happening was I was just kind of editing at the line level or at the sentence level, and so trying to kind of, looking at grammar obviously and just trying to make these really sharp, clean sentences, but I really wasn't making these deeper level changes. And this is something that an editor can really see. And so it's the same way with us, right? So we might say, oh, I'm in the state, or I'm imagining the end, or I'm saying my affirmations, but you're not necessarily embracing it on a deeper level, right? And sometimes, not always, but sometimes it actually takes these events along the bridge to actually unlayer these deeper parts within us, right? And so for instance, maybe if it's kind of a specific person or an SP situation, and you're wanting them to tell you exactly what you want to hear, and they're not, then you might kind of be going through a battle in your head where you're feeling like you're not worthy, you're feeling like you're not accepted, and you're thinking, well, if they just said the magic words, right, then it would mean the world to me. Then everything in my life would change. Or if the money just came, then I would feel safe, and then I would feel secure, and then I would feel good about myself, right? And so it's forgetting, right, that you always need to get the validation to yourself first. And when you can do that, and sometimes it takes these kind of upsetting incidents, right, to actually cause us to kind of go in and to give it to ourselves, right? Because the outside world is not giving it to us. And so we have to learn to give those things to ourselves, right? To give the security, to give the feelings of abundance, of freedom, of love. And just like I talked about in a recent video, just this idea that we are amazing no matter what, that we don't need any validation from the outside world to believe that. And so to really go in at a deep level and really apply these changes. And it's not about fixing yourself, it's not about healing yourself, but rather it's about stepping more into who you truly are. It's really becoming one with your true self, becoming one with whatever you want to call it, right? Your best version or your ideal self. You might call it your higher self. I don't really like that term personally, because I always think of it as it's something like above me and outside of me that I can't get to. But that's just me. But my true self, that's a term that I like. So yeah, it's about getting more and more in touch with your true self, and really just getting more and more in touch with the divinity within you, right? And with that love within you that's always there for you, and knowing that you can always tap into that. But there's so many nuances to it, right? And there's so many wonderful discoveries and insights about myself and life and how I relate to others that I made along this journey. And that's just made it so much more enriching. And so just like with my story, right, where it's really kind of how just kind of getting you to relate to your story at a deeper level. And so with my teacher, and this is true for a really good editor, or for that matter, for like a good coach or a good mentor. And this connects to the quote about the mustard seed, right? And so the mustard seed knows that basically the mustard seed is guaranteed to grow into the mustard tree, right? It contains the seed of fulfillment within it. And so again, an editor or a coach or a mentor, they can see that seed of greatness within you, right? So she could see the seed of greatness within my story. And she could see the tree, the mustard tree that it was going to grow into. She could see the magnificent novel that it could become, and she was able to guide me to that. And it really took me going in and making these changes at a deep level to really kind of connect with that more and more. And so really it's been thrilling, like every step of the way, just to connect with that more deeply. And so to really kind of see your own unfolding in the same way, right? And so each time you experience something that maybe in the past would have triggered you or would have made you feel, anything just less than, right? Or anything less than ideal. Instead you're able to look at that, that circumstance very matter-of-factly, right? And say, I know that I'm more than this. I know that there's a bigger picture beyond this, and I know that I'm going to get through this. I know this is just one part of the whole picture, that is just one tiny little detail, and that it's all unfolding perfectly. And so to really be able to give yourself that assurance in every moment is a very empowering feeling, but more just to savor every single moment, right? And so with a story, right? Like you don't look at a rough draft, or if you're a visual artist, you don't look at a sketch for a drawing and you don't say, oh, this is such a piece of crap. This is so worthless. Like this is never going to become like a good drawing or a good story. Like, right, that it's a work in progress, and that it's unfolding essentially, and that each step of the way, with each brush stroke, you're essentially getting closer and closer to the ideal. But you need the bridge, right, to take you there. And because if you just were, personally, I feel like, if as much as I want it, sometimes I want to just be able to kind of whip out, like a perfect draft and then hit submit and publish it, and that's it. I think it's every step of the revision process where you just get into the story like deeper and deeper. And I think every part of it is thrilling, or learning a new skill, right? And let's say you're learning a new sport, and at first you might stumble, at first you might be kind of clumsy, but once you start to get the hang of it, and once you start to get better and better, then it really is a very gratifying feeling and a very rewarding feeling. And so it's seeing that underneath it all, it's already perfect, right? It's already, in the eyes of the divine, you're already perfect, or your work of art is already perfect. But it's also about savoring all the nuances along the way. And because every little step of the way, you're going to make like a new discovery and a new insight. And it's just a very thrilling and a very exhilarating thing to experience. And the one thing that I think that is different from, because I've been using the metaphor, right, of a novel the whole time, but the one thing that's different between a novel and a real life is that, unlike a novel, like real life doesn't have like a clear cut beginning, middle, and end. So even though we use all this terminology like the middle, living in the end, imagining the end, right? There's never really an end. And so once you get married to your special person, or once you get the money, or once you get the dream job, there's still going to be more to the story, right? And that's a good thing. Obviously, you want to be able to enjoy, whatever it is that you manifested, but at the same time, it's also about enjoying every step of the process, every step of the unfolding. Because otherwise, if you just see it as this very arduous journey, and you see it kind of like as a means to an end, then it's going to be, once you get to the supposed end, it's going to be very hard to appreciate it. And then on top of it, usually this has been my experience, it just kind of creates either this feeling of kind of like waiting for the other shoe to drop, or, yeah, being scared that I'm going to lose it, or like I don't even take the time to celebrate. Like it's immediately just on to the next goal. And so it's constantly putting you into the state of like seeking and searching and craving. And but the more you just savor every step of the way, every second of the unfolding, right, the more it frees you from that cycle. And so that's, yeah, so that's what I want to share with you today. And so I love if you've had an experience like that, with unfolding, with your manifestation, or if you just have any questions, I'd love you to share in the comments. And so with that, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.